Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.
Neil Shorthouse is my guest today, and he is the co-founder and president of Partners in Change. And I cannot wait to find out what that means. Neil, welcome to Conversations with Jennylyn.
Thank you, Jennylyn. It's a pleasure.
So, a good friend of mine told me, Jenny, I met this guy called Neil Shorthouse, and he is doing some amazing things for other people, especially young people. And I really think you should interview him on your show. And that's what we're doing now.
Right.
So, Neil, please tell us exactly what Partners in Change is all about.
Well, first, and thank you again for having me on the show and all you wonderful people who are taking time to listen. Partners in Change grew out of an organization called Communities in Schools, which started in my basement 50 years ago with a buddy of mine who I had known when I was a child in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is the home of the Pittsburgh Steelers, as you know. And another man who I came to know from Morehouse College. So we were all in Atlanta. Morehouse College is in Atlanta. So we got together and we were talking about what we need to do with children in order to have more of them be successful in schools, especially those whose academic success and social well-being seemed threatened. We discovered, of course, if anybody in this field knows, that the problems of education per se, in a lot of cases, aren't education per se. There's a whole bunch of other stuff out there that gets in the way.
Right.
And what we wanted to do was enable children to be successful. Well, in order to do that, we had to deal with the non-instructional factors that were sabotaging these kids. Well, we did that. We started, as I said, in our basement. We then grew out of the basement, created an organization, and it advanced in Atlanta. Well, today, it is now in 26 states and also the District of Columbia, with about 1.7 million or 8 kids involved in Communities in Schools. And these are all children of lower economic income circumstances. Most of them qualify for the federal meals program, which provides meals for people of lower income, which is really important and has been tremendously important during COVID. So these are the children that a lot of cases are in the school failure and school dropout pipeline for no reason related to their intellect, but mainly rooted in the systems and support or lack of it that they are feeling in their lives and the relative chaos that comes when people are denied opportunity. We want to prepare people for an opportunity so they can be prepared for the opportunity. But a lot of times that doesn't happen. So anyway, we did this and are still doing. The organization is extremely vibrant and healthy all over the United States. But I decided about 20 years ago that, we needed to really go upstream with this, because the people who own these kids are called parents. And any parent who's listening to this broadcast knows what I mean by own. I mean, you got it. It's on you 100%. And your love for your children is what's motivating you to enable them to become successful and to become whole people. For a lot of adults, the very same problems that we found and the challenges and the struggles that we found with children, the adults themselves have these same problems, that their willingness and ability to be successful in life is compromised by a lack of opportunity, by a lack of support. And we know in this country, certainly systems of denial and prevention and obstacles and forces that kept people away from preparing for the opportunity to have an opportunity were
Right.
just non-existent. And so a lot of these kids were having their homes led by parents who were faced with the same thing. So that's a little bit of the background. I can go and I'll come back in and talk more about what we now mean. Okay, we were working with kids. Now what are we doing with adults? And I'll tell you about that.
This is fascinating. I mean, it's sort of in the same line of thinking why I started my show. And I believe so many people have no opportunities, and the people who have, instead of trying to help them, they judge them. And so it's wonderful when I come across someone like yourself who has unselfishly given of your time to help others. Where did that come from?
I think the energy comes from my parents, however, mainly my mother, who was highly energetic. My dad was the base support system for the family. And as he said, my job is to bring home the money and take out the garbage. I got two jobs. But I think my mother was a person of energy. On top of that, when I was just getting off into college, I became associated with the realities of spiritual needs and spiritual depth and the importance of the power of God in a person's life. And when that happened to me, I have been so grateful and so further energized. Like the Bible says, do for others what you would like to have done for yourself, or provide opportunities for others like opportunities have been provided for yourself. I have not looked back on that and am daily energized by that. Spiritual forces are at work in us, sometimes maybe for negative reasons or purposes.
Oh, tell me now about that side.
But for me, I'm so thankful that it's been extremely positive, and I'm thanking God daily to be an instrument of God's peace in any way I can.
So this you started 50 years ago in a basement.
Mm-hmm.
So many times people start organizations like these with the same type of motivation as you have with your friend, and they meet obstacles along the way because these types of organizations are very difficult to keep afloat for many reasons, but a lot of times because of the financial reasons. Where did your determination come from? Because I'm sure
Well,
you encountered some of what I'm saying.
I went through a 10-year period while we were running this organization where we didn't know where the payroll was coming. 10 years is 240 pay periods. There's 2 a month, 12 months in a year. That's 24 times 10 years. That's 240 pay periods. About 10 of those, 9 or 10 of those, I knew where the money was coming to meet that payroll more than 3 days before it was due. I have talked to bankers and having people go into the separate line of the bank because they're working on a loan for us. I mean, all kinds of crazy. We have dealt with extreme situations of not having the money, but we were so convinced that what we were doing was the right thing to do, and we're so convincing of other people who got in line with that, especially bankers. We borrowed untold numbers of dollars over the years, paid them all back, but that's what it took. It took a total commitment, and people understood that these children are important and they need to support us, therefore. So yes, obstacles come up, and sometimes it just seems overwhelming, and it is, but because of other people, because of community, key word, I think, community is what keeps us going. And that, plus our faith and determination that we are doing the right thing. We're dealing with the massive injustices that have been on this planet, and particularly in this country for so long, that we have no other destiny but this. And so that keeps us going.
Thank you that you didn't give up. Could you explain the structure of it for us and tell us exactly how your organization is helping people?
Okay, yes. Partners in Change, which is now the upstream version of where we were with children, we're now working. Hey, what about the parents? And these parents, as I said, they own the kids and they're in a lot of difficulties themselves. Well, we really, if we can help enable parents to help themselves and enable them to move beyond where they are, wow, the kids will be way better off. Many times, school principals have told me, as go parents, so go their children. So we are really an adult organization now. Communities and Schools is another organization, but out of this has been birthed this thing called Partners in Change by me and my friends. So the structure is that many times when we look at adults who aren't that successful, there's, I think, three, maybe more things that cause that to be. Number one is that when they got out of if they got out of high school, some of them didn't. If they didn't get out of high school, they're really in a compromised state. If they got out of high school and didn't go to a post-secondary program that enabled them, therefore, to graduate, or they didn't come out of high school and get a job that really was about investing in them, they really weren't going to go anywhere. Many people have jobs with companies. The moment they're there, they're in a training program or they're on some kind of an upward track to get going and being something more than what they were when they walked in the door. But a lot of companies have nothing like that. They don't invest in lifelong learning. They don't invest in a life path for their people. There's no continuous improvement mindset that is being fed to the employees. If you're in that kind of a company, you don't have that much going for you. And if you're not graduating from college, you don't have, or maybe if you didn't go to the military. I'm not a military guy, but military does wonderful things in planning and motivating people and enable them to figure out where they want to be. So if you're not in one of those three things, a lot of times you are in a situation where it's all on you and there's very little support for you. So what we are about is figure out a way to get this support to these adults who really do want to improve themselves. And the way we do that is by finding coaches. And where do we find the coaches? We find them in religious institutions. We find them in businesses. We find them in universities. These are people who will agree to coach on a volunteer basis, 30, 40 hours of commitment a week to a person, 34 minutes a week to a person, 30. So it's a coaching, it's a one-to-one coaching model that we have built.
This is wonderful. And you've been doing this for about 50 years. So what percentage of these people you could say, look back and go, I am so grateful that I played a part in the outcome of this person's life?
100% of the people who did it. 100% of the people who made that investment in these children feel good about that. The numbers of children who progressed, thousands. I mean, I could be millions by now, but many, many children who were in that school failure and school dropout pipeline have gotten through it when the school people themselves reasoned that they were not going to make it. So what we have done, yeah. So what we're committed to now is figuring out a way, as I said, to go, wait a minute, these kids didn't make it. What about their parents? What about other adults in the community? People ages, say, 20 to 60. Is there something for them? Well, really, there wasn't anything for them. So what we've done is provide these coaches, which can then take a person. You know, there's a writer named George Eliot who wrote in the 1900s, and she said that, the 1800s. George Eliot was a woman, but because she was a woman, she used a man's name because she said nobody ever read anything if they knew I was a woman. So she used the name George Eliot, and she made a famous a statement that has been basic to everything that we do. It's never too late to become what you might have been. And so we attract people into this organization who look at that sentence and say, that's me. How can I then become what I might have been? And so we're very much invested in enabling that person to get there. And as I said, coaches are the best way to do it. Coaches are used by business and corporate America for 25, 30 years, where you put somebody who's accomplished something with somebody else who needs a way forward, and they meet periodically with that person, and that person defines what they want to do, what they want to have, what they want to be, where they want to go. And then the coach's job is to listen very carefully and make sure that they understand what that person's objectives are, have, do, be, or go someplace, and then help them keep restating what it is that they want to, where they're trying to go, and what they can do to get there, and put the responsibility for figuring that out back on them. Because we have an inherent belief in the intellectual capacity of everybody. And certainly these people 20 to 60 who, like their kids, in some cases weren't doing that well. They weren't doing that well when they were kids. In fact, even their parents weren't, or their grandparent. So it's a tough cycle that we've got to crack. But when they get with a coach, they can begin to think through the processes, and they can therefore begin to develop the kinds of strategies they need. And then the coach's job is to figure out how they're going to get there, and keep talking to them and having them keep figuring out. And it's really wonderful what happens with people when that kind of support, that authentic listening, authentic caring, non-judgmental forces humbly interacting in that relationship can create hope and change in another person.
So I would imagine you screen these people really well so that you can select people who are truly committed to the program, so they don't have to waste the opportunity or anyone's time. Am I correct?
Yes, that is correct. In fact, right now, when I leave this wonderful conversation I'm having with you, I'm going to go back into our training program that we're working with adults that we have on a Zoom call right now. And what we're trying to do and actually accomplishing is we are training them in the principles of active listening, creative conversations, how to challenge somebody, and how to be fully and unquestionably supportive of that person. So that, yeah, we train people very carefully to do this, and we invest a lot of time in that.
What is the criteria to be selected for the program?
As a coach, a commitment to meet every week with your member, who the person you're coaching, for 30 to 40 minutes, and be using the strategy that we use, which is called primarily active listening or creative conversations, and creative challenging, even to support that person. So they commit to this processes and activities that we've trained them into being, and they have to do this for a year. And we find all of our coaches are saying they're getting more out of this than their members are, and their members are fired up about where they're headed and what they're doing.
This is wonderful. I like the fire and enthusiasm that it sounds like exists in your organization. Now, is it housed in a building, or do they just go to people's homes? Do you have a physical headquarters?
What we've done, COVID changed the landscape for many organizations and for us too. So what we do with nobody's leaving their home. I'm sure that people who will watch this broadcast will be people who are sitting in their home watching it. We're not going upstream against that. People are too scared for all the right reasons. They shouldn't be interacting with other people. So everything is virtual.
No, but I'm asking you this prior to COVID. I'm asking you prior to COVID.
We started in the middle of COVID. This part with the adults, we started in the middle of COVID, so we didn't fight it.
Okay.
Now in communities, in schools,
that's what I'm asking about.
The parent organization, yeah, that operates in schools. So we put individuals inside schools who develop relationships with children who are given to them by the school principal, who said this child is going to either fail or drop out of school at some point. So go for it. And we
Ah,
find out, Jennylyn, that when we talk to these kids, we find out that there is so much going on with these children that they really want to talk about and do something with. We believe in the kids, and the kids, of course, really are believers in themselves if they're given the opportunity to talk about that. So, it's that process where we believe in what we call talent identification versus problem identification. We don't want to focus on the problems. Everybody's got those. Tell me what you can do. Tell me what you can be. Tell me where you can go. What would you like to do? When kids start hearing that from a caring adult, they're coming out. They're being excited, and they want to do something. And then we've seen kids turn around in worst kid in the school. 8 months later, he gets the little certificate for the most improved kid in the school. I mean, it's not guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed, but it's amazing the power of a life on another life.
mhm. Yes, I agree with you. Do you have children of your own?
I have 4 children who are our own, 2 of whom are adopted. And then we adopted another lady child when she was 18 from Rwanda. So we have 5. And then on top of that, we now have 10 grandchildren and then 1 great grandchild. So this is a busy organization. They're all over the place. One's in Kansas City, some are in Fort Lauderdale, some are in Atlanta, where I'm from. So it's a very intense family. We had just had
I like this kind of intensity because you and your family are making a huge impact on other people's lives for the better. That's the kind of enthusiasms that I think a lot of families need to have, because so many times people only care about them and their own. And so when I meet someone like you who has taken quite a large portion of your own life to add value and encourage others and lead others, because you're the president, to make an impact in other people's lives, to me, think of what the world would be like if everyone was thinking like this. I'm very grateful, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's wrong to be an achiever and get a good education, but to judge those less fortunate is what I have a problem with. So
not only to judge them, but to block them
yeah,
in subtle and not so subtle ways, direct and indirect. And there's so much of that going on. We've held whole races down. Being an Asian, you could write books about things that you have seen and experiences that other people have had that were caused by people of ill will. It's awful. And we have got
call it ignorance. I call it ignorance, because an educated person knows that if you find the darkest skinned human and you peel the skin away, you're going to see the exact same structure and organs that you see under the skin of somebody who is considered white. So
Yes.
to me, this is the highest form of ignorance. And I have sympathy for those people who think and treat others the way they do because of their skin color, in their minds, lack of education or ethnicity or place in life. So kudos to you and your organization for all the people that you are helping. And you can hear my passion.
Yes.
Because I hate bullies. And to me, those people fall in that category.
Well, ignorance, it sounds like it's a very bad word, but it also is a violent word, because what it does, that ignorance evidences itself in blocking huge numbers of people. And it's a very ill-advised strategy, because when you allow other people to be successful, it lifts the person up. We are to our own detriment holding people down. If we would help enable people to lift themselves up and give them the opportunity to be prepared for an opportunity, then we would all be better off.
Exactly, because the people who are more privileged, to hold themselves in some hierarchy and go and say, oh, I went to these great schools and I came from a great family, so I'm superior to you. Think of how ignorant that statement is. So I hope more people watching this segment will take a leaf out of your book or contact you to find out how they can help the organization, because it is based on making other people's lives better.
Yes, we would love anybody who wants to be a coach to call me, or to I don't know what your systems are for enabling people to communicate with us.
Leave your email address, leave your phone number, leave your contact information.
Sure. I mean, we have a website. Our name is Partners in Change, but our website is called partnersinchange.usa.org. It's pretty simple. Partners in Change. We're partners in change. That's what we're doing. USA.org. And now that's the simplest way to get a hold of us. Just send us an email and you're in. And you'll never get out.
So say, for example, somebody like me, because you're in most school districts. Am I correct?
Yeah. Well, we're working with schools, but we're also working in communities, not just schools. So it's the children are in schools, but the adults are in communities. So we're working in communities, not just schools.
And you're not just training people academically. So if, for example, someone who doesn't feel confident with their own education, but who has time, you train them to do other things to help other people. Is that correct?
We could, at two levels. One, they could become a coach. And we've had a lot of people who don't think they could be a coach and don't think they have much to offer. But when they hear out what it is, they learn how to listen. And if they can listen, they can help somebody. That's the main thing, number one. However, if there's a person who really doesn't have, in our view, isn't ready to be a coach, then we can have them as a member and we can be coaching them. And here's what we ask of our members: 3 things. Number one, make up a goal. We don't care what it is. Tell us your goal. And well, I don't have a goal. Well, what do you think about your kids? Well, I really love my kids. Well, what do you want for your kids? Well, I want them to be successful. Okay, that's a goal. You want your kids to be successful. Okay, number 2, we want you to spend 30 to 40 minutes a week with a coach. 30 to 40 minutes, okay? On the phone, don't have to go anywhere. I just listen on the phone and talk and interact. And the third thing we want to do, Jennylyn, is we don't require this, but we offer this. We say, what we would also like you to do is, after this 1 year with your coach, we want you to consider being trained to be a coach. So now you can begin coaching somebody else if you spend that year. And that's thrilling for people. Some people, you mean I could be a coach? I could really do that? No question, you can do that. And so we want people to feel that opportunity in themselves, and then that takes their preparation a lot more seriously. And they're going to be doing other things along the way, not just coaching, because that's a volunteer job. But they can be the experiences they gain by having a coach. They'll develop another career opportunity probably.
I cannot believe how quickly 30 minutes fly when someone with your kind of enthusiasm that's adding such value to the world is sharing time with me. But before I let you go, I mean, there's so many questions popping into my head. What haven't I asked you that you want to make sure you leave with people?
I want everybody to know that it's never too late to become what you might have been. And I want everybody to know there's an opportunity out there for you to enable another person to prepare themselves for another opportunity. So there's 2 sides of this, and we need both. And the thing that we're finding out that both members and coaches are tremendously rewarded by what's going on with them. So there's a way to give, and it is more blessed to give than to receive. And if you are committed to giving, don't worry about getting. It's on its way if you just keep giving.
And if you have to give, because I've never seen a coffin attached to a U-Haul of stuff. Life is short. Help another person, because when you do, you bring blessings to yourself. I know, because I give all the time and I get more than I can handle.
That's
So
right.
I'm very grateful for this chance, Neil. I wish that, we should probably do a follow-up segment later on
Sure.
to appeal to more people, to get more people to join and help with the coaching, or
Yes.
in any way that you need help. Is there a phone number that you can leave? Because you left the email, but you didn't leave a phone number.
Yes. We will leave a phone number, and that phone number, you've got the email, and that's very simple. But I will give you my phone number, and that phone number is 404-771-1021. And I would actually suggest to people that they text me. And the reason for that is if they call me and I get a number that I don't know what it is, I tend not to answer it. But if you text me, then bang, I can call you right back. How about that?
Thank you so much for the value that you and your coaches are adding to other people's lives. The world can be so beautiful, so much more beautiful. And I think all it takes is each of us looking out for the other, and stop being stuck up and thinking that you are in some hierarchy because you have stuff. Because I think what really makes us rich is when we care and love each other. To me, that's what makes us rich. So Neil, thank you so very much.
It's an honor to be on your show, and I'm grateful for this, and I look forward to seeing more of your conversations.
You just have to go to my website. They're all there. I hope that these conversations are having an impact. I am not someone who promotes my YouTube channel. I need to do that so I could get these shows in front of more people, because people like you, they need to hear about what you're doing so they can join in.
Great. We'll push it.
Thank you so much. And I'll let you get back to your training class. God bless.
And same to you. Thank you very much, Jennylyn.
Thank
Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.